Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 5 of Old Dudes New Tricks. I'm Dwayne Chambers, and I'm here with Gary Collins. Gary, what's up?
Not much. Just hanging out in the trailer again.
I know. This episode is just going to be me and Gary. We're going to talk about a couple of different things, but mainly we're going to talk about chronic pain. But first, I just want to talk about, I was telling Gary about a guy that used to live 10 miles down the road from me, Sturgill Simpson. I'm sure that, if you've listened to this and you watch the Grammys and watch Saturday Night Live, you've seen Sturgill out there, and I just introduced Gary to him. And, it's kind of one of those things, one of the topics that we're kind of focusing on with our podcast. He's a guy that he did it all, man. He used to work on the railroad. His wife told him, if you want to give your music career a shot, he quit working on the railroad. I think he was out in Oregon. And they went to Nashville, and he started playing the dives in Nashville and worked his way up. And just out of luck, some producer was walking by the bar, and he heard this sound coming out of there. And he was like, man, I got to see who this is. And he went inside and found Sturgill up there playing his ass off, and then signed him to a deal that day. Like, Sturgill came out of the back of the bar, and he was back there waiting for him. And he said, hey, man, we need to talk. And they sat down and talked and made this deal.
That's
And
cool.
his band that they did the first recording on was Waylon Jennings' old band. And he brought him in as studio players. He showed him the songs, and they played on his backing on High Top Mountain. And that is a classic country music album. I mean, it's something that a country music album you wouldn't have heard. Could have heard 20 years ago, and it would sound like it was fresh. So, and then he went on and did Meta Modern Sounds of Country Music, and then A Sailor's Guide to Earth, which everybody, if you know who he is, that's what you've heard. But it's an awesome album. And
that's a cool story. I mean, when you think about, because he's got to be close to our age, right?
Well, I think he's 36 or 37. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
Sure. But I used to watch him, like I said, 10, 15 years ago in little bars here in Lexington. And he was awesome. He was at that time, he was in a bluegrass band. And they were fantastic. I can't remember the name of them off the top of my head. I'll remember and put them in the show notes because, they're really good, and I think you should check them out. But the cool thing about him, watch his video like I had Gary watch it of his appearance on Saturday Night Live, because that's a guy that he is beat the path for 15 years trying to make it. And he finally gets on Saturday Night Live, and he lets everything loose on there. He gives it everything he's got. And to see an artist or anybody in their prime that just gives it everything they had and just is successful is pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's interesting. I just watched the thing on John Belushi they had on. He actually didn't die of a cocaine overdose. He died of heroin. They concluded. Just interesting, a little side note. I mean, we're going to be talking about chronic pain, and there was a whole story behind this whole backstory. So it's interesting to hear, because John Belushi was known for giving it his all. Not saying that this guy is totally on cocaine and whacked out on heroin. Not saying that by any stretch. But yeah, it was amazing when you see artists like that, when they give it their all, that you remember it. And that's what kind of like John Belushi was known for. The next one they're doing is actually Jimi Hendrix. And I really want to see that one, because if anyone changed rock, basically hard rock and heavy metal, was Jimi Hendrix basically created it. If you think about it, that was the guy who started it all. And even, he had a short career. Wow, man, he is awesome. If you even listen to him today, you're just like, okay. And that was what he died in late 60s, early 70s.
I don't remember. I think he made it to the 70s. I'm not sure.
I can't remember. It was real early. Yeah, well, we were just out of the womb. So, how would we know? But yeah, the chronic pain thing, well, the reason we're talking about that tonight is because both me and Dwayne have had, some similar injuries. I've had multiple surgeries over the last 6 years, and everyone thinks I'm just this total healthy guy that was born, ripped and working out, and that's not the case. I've had actually some major touches, and I deal with chronic pain every day. And how to deal with it. I deal with clients with the same thing, and we touched on it a little bit with Bill Courtright about how we're opiate nation. We're we're the biggest consumers of painkillers and pain medications in the world is the United States. We're a bunch of junkies, basically. And there's times with chronic pain that you do need to take those. And we both have. I mean, Dwayne, you have as well. I haven't taken very much. I didn't take any until my back surgery. I'd never touched them. And wow, man, that's some nasty shit right there. I mean,
it is. And it's not just nasty because, you know, it's just how addicting it is.
Yeah.
You know, and really, you know, I don't have really an addictive personality. I smoked for a long time. And just one day I decided I'm not going to do this anymore. And I have had the cravings, but it's something that I could easily quit. And if you can quit cigarettes that fast, your personality is not that addictive. But
yeah, I agree with you.
A few years ago, probably I think it was 5 years ago, I needed to have a root canal. And if you've ever had a tooth that's abscessed and in need of a root canal, it's the worst pain you can imagine. And so the doctor gave me, I think it was hydrocodone at that time. I don't think I was taking Lortab or Oxy. But I had to wait 2 weeks before I got the surgery to fix that root canal. And I took those for 2 straight weeks. And when I was done, man, I wanted those things so bad. I have never wanted something more than I wanted to take another one of those pills. And it really, like, when I stopped, I said, okay, I wanted this seriously. I've got to stop, you know? And when I did, I finished the bottle. I said I was going to stop, but I finished the bottle. And then I didn't have anything else to go to, so I had to quit. Oh, I mean, I had headaches.
Yeah.
My stomach hurt. I was depressed. I was going through the withdrawals like you would not believe. So it's ridiculously addictive.
Well, and for me, same as you, I'd never taken anything. I'd always spent most of my life being a knucklehead and just gritting it. Not to say I just didn't take anything. Basically, I just sucked it up and caused myself all kinds of problems. But when I took them, I remember for my back surgery, I mean, they jacked me up with all kinds of drugs. I mean, before, after, and they actually had a pump that pumped morphine into my back. It pumped it directly in between the stitches, and they had it all in there. And I had this little case with me that I carried around, I think, for about a week. And then I had, or maybe even 2 weeks. And then I came in and they took it out. But I remember they gave me hydrocodone, Valium, and there was another one. I think it was the anti-nausea. There was 3 or 4 that I took, but the hydrocodone, I'd never touched it. Mm-hmm. And I got out of the hospital and being Gary, I had spinal fusion and a nasty one. I mean, it was ugly. That I said, give me a couple days, I'll be fine. Not realizing how high I was when I left the hospital, how much pain medication I actually had in me. Mm-hmm. And so I get home and I feel fine. You know, I mean, I'm in a lot of pain, but tolerable. I'm like, I'm okay. And I'd say about 12 hours later, I woke up in the middle, well, about 3, 4 in the morning, actually. And I thought I was dying. I was in so much pain that it was, I literally couldn't even see. I was in so much pain, I couldn't even see, like my vision was off because it was hard to say, like my whole brain and nervous system it was just in this jumbled, like lightning storm. Everything was hitting all at once. And I remember I found those pills, man. I probably took 3 when I was supposed to take 2. And I was still in a lot of pain. And about 4 hours later, and I called the doctor's office, and they said, you don't stop taking them. And I went, oh. They're all, you got to keep taking that stuff. You just can't stop. And then, because it builds up, we've been building you up for, 5, 6 days, and now you cut it off. Now you got to build back up again. I went, holy shit. So I build back up. I'm taking them, and if you know anything about hydrocodone and oxycodone, it's basically heroin is what it is. And it's just a derivative of it. And I know what a heroin addict, I'm sure you felt the same way, what they felt. I remember I'd watch the clock. I'd sit there and I'd be 15 minutes. I go, I can take my pill. It'll be 4 hours. And I would take it, and literally this whole warming effect would come over my whole body. Just slow warm, just this nice burn. And all of a sudden the head starts doing the bob, and drool to start coming out. And I went, oh my God, I'm a heroin addict right now. Because that's what it is. And the irony is that John Belushi, the reason I brought that up is he blew his knee out on stage at doing an act before he had made it big. Blew it completely. Had to get surgery like the next day. He admitted to his wife just right before he died, because she knew he had all kinds of drug problems. He said, hey, by the way, I've been taking, I never told anyone, but I've been taking oh gosh, my brain just went dead. Hello. Help me out here, Dwayne.
Heroin.
Hydrocodone. Okay. Heroin. Golly.
The big one.
And he had been hiding it, and they deducted that it was because he told them that he had been dealing with chronic pain. So when you think about that, what John Belushi was doing is he was taking the street version, basically, of pain medication to deal with chronic pain. Mm-hmm. He became a big-time addict later on, obviously. Yeah. But that's, it's interesting. And I know people who have gotten addicted to painkillers. I'm sure we all do. It is an easy go. I only took them for, I want to say at about day 11 or 12, I said, that's it. No more. I got to get off this stuff. Because I could tell when I was taking, I went, this shit is bad news. I got to figure out how to get off this stuff. And so I kind of tapered off a little bit, but same thing. I had the chills, nausea, was curled up in the fetal position, was sweating. And I went, holy shit, I only took these things for less than 2 weeks and I'm having severe withdrawal symptoms. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty crazy. And don't get me wrong, I was taking Valium and some other stuff, but it was the hydrocodone that was definitely doing it. Mm-hmm. But with that said, I don't think there was anything else that I could have taken in that situation for surgery that would have made the surgery and the recovery bearable.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. When you're looking at extreme cases like that, like when I had my double herniated discs, that's real pain. And it's not just chronic pain. That's pain that has been brought on by a traumatic event. And so there are reasons to take those things.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not that, I got up this morning and my knee hurts. That's not a reason to start taking oxys and hydrocodone, Lortab and all that stuff, but yeah, there are reasons there, but it has to be a responsible doctor giving it to you that's going to have a responsible way to end it after it's over in a plan.
Yeah.
If they go in without a plan and say, all right, I'm just going to write you this prescription, and then boom, you're going to take this home and do what it says on the bottle. And then if you still have pain, come back in and see me again, and we'll write you another one and keep you going until you feel better. Well, that's just that doctor goes from being a doctor to being your drug dealer.
Pretty much.
And so he's making money. You're making money. You're not making money, but
he's
getting what you want.
your insurance.
Fix.
Yeah.
So,
well, and we used to call them Dr. Feelgoods. I used to investigate them, actually. There was clinics set up that they would go round up all kinds of people, mainly, street people living on the street, whoever they could get. They would rope them in and basically give them their drugs. And what they would do is they charge them an office visit every time. Ooh. So there's a whole system how they do it. So yeah, I've been to several pain management clinics, not only as an investigator, but personally dealing with my chronic pain. Mine started in, I want to say I did my major injury when I was 25. So I dealt with it for a very long time, my back injury, not realizing how bad it was. And of course I made it worse, not knowing. But what I do is I'd go see a doctor, and they'd be like, hey, well, we think it's just nerve, muscle, not realizing I had a crushed disc and had ground through basically all the soft tissue in my vertebrae. Had a horrible injury. And, I went to a couple pain management people, and they just go, I remember one guy walking, he goes, well, what do you want? And I went, what do you mean, what do I want? He goes, well, what painkillers do you want? How much do you need? I went, what, dude, aren't we going to talk about this first? I thought you were here to manage my pain, not make me a friggin' drug addict. That was the whole point. And the guy could tell. All of a sudden he changed his tune. He realized, oh, this guy isn't here just to get high, you know. And I'm all, no, I told you, you know, I'm injured. I'm trying to figure out how to manage the pain so I don't have to get surgery if I don't need it. And he actually, after I kind of rolled him around a few times, he kind of went, well, here's the deal. He goes, I don't think it's a good idea for you to start on this type of program. He goes, because it's not going to help you. And I went, okay. But then he tried talking me into getting the injections into my back. He wanted to get me because those were like $1,200 a pop. Mm-hmm. So he didn't get me on the drugs. He just what he did is he was trying to upsell me. Once he couldn't get that one, he wanted to give me the epidurals. Yeah. And those were really expensive.
That's what they gave me in the Navy, they gave me epidurals.
Well, and those are really dangerous too, because what it does is the cortisone actually eats at the bone. So it actually makes it degenerate that much faster. And then they do that. And then the next step is they try and go in and they try and electrocute or deaden the nerve. And that's total. When I looked into that, they don't know where they're going. Most of the time it's a crapshoot. They're guessing. So that you're dealing with two guys who have been through a lot of injuries and pain. You know, you played athletics. I did too. I played athletics all through, played intramurals in the military, played them in college, even tried out for teams in college. I mean, all kinds of stuff. And then the military and law enforcement. I mean, my body's pretty messed up. And so I've kind of had to figure out what works as I get older, because I can't deal with this pain. When I was young, it was a little easier. I could deal with it. But now what I learned at the back surgery, that's when I started taking turmeric, because I started taking that and it helped immediately, because turmeric is good with, it's a very powerful anti-inflammatory antioxidant naturally. And so I still take it to this day. I take it all the time. And I started taking that. And then I learned the ice, the heat. I used to just either ice things or I used to just put heat on them. This once over the years in working with clients, I learned 5 minutes of ice on the injury, then 10 minutes of heat, and you swap it 2 to 3 times. And then you take a break, you know, let it go for 4 or 5 hours, do it again. And that works really well too, especially for muscle pain, you know, where you got a lot of muscle tension, maybe pull the muscle, joint pain. It works really well for that. Naturally, there's some stuff you can do, but when you get into when you kind of make that, as we're getting closer to 50, and, you know, I've got screws and rods in my back. I've got titanium magnets around my esophagus. I got all kinds of good shit going on. I'm starting to learn that stuff works to a point, you know. Now I've kind of taken the next level, and I'm going into a different side of pain management, which is going to be a little controversial, which we're going to talk about. And Dwayne, why don't you bring that up, since you're in the great state of Kentucky? That's kind of been more on the forefront of this stuff.
Well, you know, Kentucky is we're 10 years behind everybody in everything usually. But for whatever reason, the state has decided they're going to be the number one state in hemp. So back in, I think, 2013, the state said that we're going to start hemp cultivation again. And it's all basically because, I mean, if you think about Kentucky, we had two major industries 20 years ago that are non-existent now: the tobacco industry and the coal industry. Yeah. And that was probably 1 and 2 of things that we did. Well, farmers are being completely subsidized in Kentucky and not really growing anything. You can find corn everywhere, and you can find smaller farms that do niche things like that and farmers market type stuff. But, you know, it's hard to find large commercial crops for farmers to really make money. So they brought in hemp, and they've slowly been building it in. Like the first year, I think they let UK, Kentucky, University of Kentucky, Western Kentucky University, and I think Moorhead or Murray, one of those, grow small plots to kind of test it out. So they're finding out what the best hemp is. But anyway, now we're becoming a full hemp production state. And with that hemp production, one of the main things coming out of that is CBD oil or cannabinoid oil. And, you know, that's just one of the things that they're finding now that doctors are starting to do a lot of research on. that's saying, man, this stuff is not only working for epilepsy and other things that a lot of people know about, but it's also a very good pain management tool.
Well, and that's, you know, for me too, I'm in a forward state too, far as Washington State has had legalization of marijuana for the consumer, not medical marijuana, just the consumer can go in and buy whatever you want for quite a while. I don't know how many years now it's been, but they were one of the first. So I don't have to go get a prescription card or an ID card from a doctor. And I actually kind of figured it's kind of a scam. Medical marijuana is a scam. They're basically giving you the same thing that if you go into a state or a state where it's legal for a consumer to get it, there's no difference.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're just paying for doctor's appointments to tell someone go smoke pot, basically. But it's a little more complicated than that, because the way the stores work in Washington and the place, I'll be honest, I use it. I started about 1.5 years ago, managing my pain with it, because I was trying to figure out the best way to do it. And then, like I said, as I'm aging, it gets worse. That's why people ask, "Oh, you should build your house." Well, you know what? I can't build my house, to be honest with you. It would kill me. So I have to be real careful with how much exercise I do, what I lift, how long I drive, how long I sit, how long I stand. It's just, that's the way my life is. So I went there to a shop, and they basically know everything. You walk in there, you go, "Hey, I'm looking for a high CBD content." And they'll point it to you, and they kind of give you the different ratios, and they're real good. They say, "Start here, try this first, and then move up." I went to the oils. I was doing just the normal buds. And what happened is, you know, it can be pretty harsh on your lungs. So I decided to try the oils, and people said the oils were a little more effective. And they're right. Now the hemp and smoking the oils or the buds is different, because all the hemp oil is basically all CBD. It can't have THC in it, because now it becomes illegal in most states. So it makes it tricky. But I've noticed, I've messed with the hemp oils too and CBD oils, that the combination of the CBD and THC together works the best. Now, not to say, people, there's 3 types of people in the legal marijuana world, you know, who fight. There's a lot of people for pain management. There's the in-betweeners that use it kind of for pain management and recreational. And then there's the people who sit on their couch and want to smoke dope all day and play video games and eat Cheetos. That's the kind of groups you have. It's a weird dynamic when you walk in one of these stores. You'll see old people in their 70s, you know, going, and they're in there, and, you know, they're driving their Lexus, and they're just in there for pain management. That's what they use it for. They're not there to get high. But with what I use, it will get you high if you smoke too much or to a certain point. So I tend to do it at night, you know, when I'm not going to be driving or doing anything. I just don't try and work with tools, or I just make sure I'm not doing anything. And at night's when it's usually the worst anyway. Or if I have it in the day, I smoke it. That day I'm out. I'm not going to do anything. I wouldn't say productive, but anywhere where I got to get in my car, or I've got to, like I said, use power tools or anything like that, I'm going to stay put for that day. And it works. I'll be honest with you, for everything I've used in my life, it is the best thing I've found for my pain management. Now, do I do it every day? No, I do not. I do it when it's bad. So I would say on average, maybe 3-4 times a month, maybe 5. I just do it when it's bad. And I know I'm not going to be able to sleep that night. I can tell. I can tell where it's going. I know my pain pretty well now. So that's how I use it. And the state, like I said, I'll be honest with you, that's one of the reasons I'm in Washington, where I'm at, is because there's things they don't do right, but that's one of them. And remember, guys, I'm a former, I was in law enforcement, and I'll be honest with you, even when I was in, I didn't understand. I never understood the pot thing. I just never did. I don't get it. I don't know what we're doing. We're wasting our time, you know, and for most people, locking them up for pot. We used to have a saying, you know, I've never been robbed by a guy who smokes pot every day. You know, it just usually doesn't happen. If anything, like I said, they're in their couch playing video games. They're pretty docile. You know, they're not moving. Once they move up to cocaine, heroin, and shit like, you know, meth, then they start stealing your stuff. Then that's when it starts going the wrong way. I've never met a hardcore criminal pot smoker. So yeah, it's an interesting world for me. And I'll be honest with you too, is medical doctors and people within a certain administration related to the military, let's say, actually pointed me in this direction. I didn't do this all on my own. Actually, quite a few people in the medical community who were trying to help me manage my pain, they pointed me in that direction. And I'm actually very thankful for it, because it's the best thing I've found. It doesn't have horrible side effects. You know, it's not going to kill me. The painkillers, if you take them nonstop for a long time, they will kill you flat out, or you will end up killing yourself. I mean, there's also a high suicide rate with chronic pain and getting hooked on the pain medications. So yeah, I mean, that's my story.
Yeah. And, but the one thing you didn't mention, we talked about the addiction effect of all those opiates that you're taking. Whereas, this has, anytime you take cannabis, it does have addictive personality, but it's not the physical addiction that you get from those other things. The addiction comes from, it's a habit forming addiction. So, they say that 9% of the people that use that product are addicted, but then you're looking at over 20% for alcohol and heroin and anything like that. So somebody like you who is not using it every day, using it to manage your pain, using it responsibly, you're not going to get addicted to it. Like you said, if you need it today, tomorrow, if you were addicted to it, you'd want it again. But you can go 3, 4, 5 days without it and then do it.
Yep. Yeah. And not only that, but what I've noticed, people who are the term potheads, I mean, what happens is the people I've found like that, I guess I call it the Ricky Williams effect. Mm-hmm. I've met people who smoke it every day who have a really hard time dealing with reality and everyday anxiety. They have high they have a high anxiety rate. They have a hard time dealing with people. Those are people I've noticed that smoke it every day because it's a way for them to escape.
Yeah.
And I actually know people who have flat out told me that, that I've known for years. They've been smoking pot almost all their whole life. And they just say, I just don't like the reality of the world. They go, I don't know how to cope. So I just get high all the time. And I'm all, okay, it's not the way I would go. But I don't have an addictive personality either. So I'm not wired that way to begin with, which is odd because I have quite a few people in my family who have been addicts, but I just didn't get it. So for me, I'm responsible with it. And when I do it, I just don't get blazed and lit up. And, I sit there and eat a gallon of ice cream and watch Animal House. It's more, it takes the edge off. It's also used for sleep. And another good thing that's coming out of the studies that are finally being done, and this used to piss me off to no end, is in law enforcement, these politicians, pot's a gateway drug. I go, come on, really? And these are the same guys who are going home and pounding 3 or 4 mixed drinks a night, on their third wife and, trying to chase and put pictures of their peckers on Twitter or whatever. Anthony Weiner. Met that guy. He's a piece of shit. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird how these people are telling us, and you're just like, you're a total hypocrite. But the VA is actually getting pretty far involved in the studies now because of all the suicide rates. We're in such prolonged wars, and we're getting so many soldiers coming back with PTSD, and they're getting them on these really powerful psychotropic drugs that they're basically, what a lot of the side effects of them are, they make you suicidal. So the suicide rates have jumped up. We're creating addicts, and the VA's finally woken up and gone, hey, we got to come up with a better way of doing this because this is not working. So I'm hoping that the government sees the light and the VA finally, because they've been doing trials, is that they go, you know what, we're going to start prescribing this stuff to the soldiers coming back, for not only for PTSD, for anxiety. They use it for dementia, Alzheimer's. I'm trying to think. The whole multitude of symptoms. And let's think about it. How long have people been using hemp oils and marijuana in cultures? Thousands of years. It's a friggin' plant. It's just like the cocoa leaf. Anyone who's traveled around the world, cocaine is addictive when you extract it and you cut it with something else, and now it's a highly concentrated chemical. People who go out, if you go countries, where the cocoa plant is, they'll just chew on the leaves. It's like their coffee. They chew on a couple leaves. They're like, all right, I'm ready to go. And they go out and work. They're not snorting 5 lines and then going to the bar and having, 5 Red Bull and vodkas. They do it as a stimulant in order to work harder or get through the day. It's just amazing what we've done with certain substances and how we've just, we turned to abuse them. It's like sugar. Mm-hmm. Basically we turned sugar into another form of cocaine. Sugar alone by itself, I'm the health guy. That's why I always talk about sugar. Until we started refining it and turning it into a highly concentrated form of sugar, of simple carbohydrate, sugar wasn't an issue. It never has been. Now it is, because we're basically treating it just like cocaine. It's what I think I saw a stat that the amount of sugar in one Coke, you would have to eat 8 linear feet of sugar cane to get the same amount of sugar. So it's just, it's amazing. And the pain management thing, it's a weird world, because I didn't understand it, because I met people growing up. I'm sure you have. I met people hooked on pain medication, and I just didn't get it. They go, oh man, I'm in a lot of pain. I did this, did that. And I went, no. And then until I got into real serious chronic pain, my injury was manageable for about 10 years. Then it became non-manageable for the 5 before I went and got my surgery. And once I got into the chronic pain category, I'll tell you what, guys, there was days when literally you want to end your life. You're in so much pain that you don't know what to do, and there's no relief. And the pills are not the answer. That just kind of, it sedates you, is the best way to put it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't get rid of the pain. It doesn't help cure anything. If anything, it breaks down your body more and makes it worse. So I'm always looking for alternatives, and I believe the CBD oil and the marijuana community, they're onto something. And I'm glad that a lot of states have legalized it. It seems like the trend is heading that way. And actually, we're going to try and do some interviews with some people in the hemp community down the road, and kind of go from there. What do you see in Kentucky as far as pain management side of it, since you guys are pretty big into hemp? And obviously,
if you look at Kentucky, especially in the last 10, 15 years, as the mines closed down, there's no job in the world that's going to give you more chronic pain than working in the mines.
None. Yeah.
And one of the saddest things I ever saw, and this is when I worked in insurance, is I was cold calling in Eastern Kentucky, and I went to a little small town out there and was looking at doctor's offices. Doctor's offices are I sold supplemental insurance. They were very good places to prospect, because the nurses and doctors understood how insurance worked, and they usually wanted the products for accident insurance and cancer insurance and stuff like that. So I was prospecting doctor's offices, and I went to this one place, and it looked like an old schoolhouse, 1-story school, elementary school from back in the day. And it was huge. And it only had one doctor's name on the door.
Oh boy.
And I walk in there. Yeah, I walk in there, and the lounge, the lobby, is literally half of this building. And it is full, and there are people outside. Parking lot's freaking huge, and they're just running people in and out of that place as fast as they can. And I've never seen anything like that. And once I got to investigating it a little bit more and talking to other people, every town has 1, 2, 3, 4 of those places. So, this is big when the pill mill was coming from Florida and up the coast into Kentucky, and then Kentucky up into northeast of the United States. And so there was this, they would prescribe it all down in Florida. They would run it all up to Kentucky. These doctors would prescribe it. They would run it all, and then people would run it up the coast. And that was everywhere. So, you have this huge, huge group of people that are now they have legitimate chronic pain. And not only do they have legitimate chronic pain, they're now getting addicted to these drugs. And, I don't know what the stats are, but I would, Kentucky is the highest on cancer and all this other stuff. I would say our opiate death rates are as high or higher than any state in the country. And now heroin is getting so bad here. I mean, it's insane. So, talking about the CBD oil and hemp. So I'm hoping, there's stats. These are stats. This isn't the bullshit that politicians are the anti-drug politicians are throwing out there about opioids. And, Sessions is talking about how he wants to crack down on marijuana because it's just going to hurt the epidemic. When in reality is states that have at least medical marijuana have 20% less opiate deaths than states that do not have any marijuana program. So 25% people are living because CBD oil, THC, cannabinoids, all that stuff, and they're not on opioids. So how can a politician? So if they say they're against this, they're against the research, they're against anybody doing this stuff. They're saying, okay, I'm going to say it's okay for Kentucky to have 25% of their people that are on opioids die, and I don't care about that, which I don't get. Well, anyway, so Kentucky has CBD oil, but it's only hemp derived. Now I can't smoke marijuana. I can't take any of that stuff because of my job, because we have random drug testing. So, I'm forced to have this pain, and I haven't looked into CBD oil and how the cannabinoids would affect a drug test. So I'd like to look at that, because I want to start taking the hemp oil at least, and I'm curious to see if without the THC content, which regular hemp plants do not have that, there's cannabis and there's hemp. So hemp has absolutely no value except for CBD. So I want to start taking this stuff, but I want to find out before I start doing that and jeopardize my job and family.
You should be fine. You have to check, but usually within, when you look at the CBD oils, these companies are very smart. Mm-hmm. It literally, I think it can have a small percentage of THC per the FDA. I don't remember what the ratio was, or, parts per million, whatever it is, but it should be safe. But I would definitely check with whoever the drug testing, body of your job is. I would talk to them first, and I would give them the bottle to go, hey, this is what I'm going to take. Because how many people have been busted doing something or lost their job and they had no idea? Yeah. Sports, guys who play sports that are, professional athletes get popped all the time. And don't get me wrong, some are full of shit, but there's a legitimate guys who go, I didn't know. I had no clue, that
my trainer was giving this to me.
Yeah. I didn't know it was an illegal substance. I had no clue. And that's the thing. I think, you hit on a very good point, because I was on the inside. I know I've been around these politicians, and they're complete, utter shitbirds is what they are. They're human ass clowns. The drug companies are so in their pocket that they know that by legalizing marijuana, because we are the biggest consumers of pain medication in the world, that their buddies are going to lose money. And they cannot have that happen. And people go, the tin hat shit. I'm telling you, people, the drug industries in this country are terrible. I worked firsthand with them. It is, it is worse than you think. There are billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars involved here. So you start talking that, and I'll make it simple. You can go get a little e-cigarette from a shop like in Washington, and it's $50. Well, there's 500 hits in that $50 cigarette. Okay, you compare that to going and get a script of 30 to 45 oxycodone or Oxycontin or hydrocodone. You know what? There's a big difference in price. Huge difference.
Well, here's the thing, though. With insurance, so the doctor prescribes it, the patient gets it, they go get the prescription. With my insurance, I can go get a full bottle of Oxy for less than $10.
Yeah. But it's all subsidized, though. It's all subsidized through the insurance.
They're getting their money.
It's all a chain.
Yeah.
It's
and
all
I'm getting a low addictive quotient drug. So
why do you, and that's a good point. And people need to realize this. Why do you think it's so cheap for you to get? Because the drug companies aren't stupid. They make money off addicts. And I hate to be this way and be this direct, but there's some pretty evil people in our government and in these drug companies. I'll tell you straight up. The cross-pollination between these drug companies and our politicians is horrendous. I mean, these politicians leave and they go right to the drug companies. They go right to the lobbying firms. It's complete bullshit. I mean, it should be illegal, period, for that to happen. Matter of fact, if you go to Europe, they can't even advertise pharmaceutical drugs on their television. It is against the law. It used to be. I may be wrong. I haven't been there in a long time. You watch anything today, anything I watch today, half of it's friggin' pharmaceutical drug ads. And it's just funny. You take an anti-diarrheal drug, and one of the side effects is it gives you diarrhea. It's insane. I mean, it blows my mind, you know. And it's just like the drugs for anxiety and depression. Well, what's the side effect? They cause anxiety and depression and suicide. Yeah, I mean, we've lost our mind in what we're doing. But yeah, that's a good point you bring up, that it's cheap because they want an addict. And that's just a perfect example. I know this in my family because I've seen it in our families, is all kids now have ADD. No, they don't. They're kids. Their brains are developing. They're not meant to focus on anything because they don't have the ability to focus on anything. It's like a puppy. You watch a puppy, it's the same as a little kid. It's all over the place. It poops over here, it pees over here, and it grabs 5 dog toys and runs in circles. And then its brain's developing. It's not able to concentrate on one thing. And actually by doing all those tasks actually helps it wire itself. It's wiring its brain and getting all these experiences. Now, with kids, they started, I've seen it as early as age 5 to 7 now. They're getting them on ADD medications. And what it is, the drug companies have gotten very intelligent in this too. So it's just that they've changed the molecular structure of it. So it's just slightly different than methamphetamine. It's still methamphetamine. And that's why these kids, they get them on, and you get them at that age. And trust me, these drug companies know, they're smart, that you get them on at that age, these kids are done. They're done. You're going to screw up their brain development. They won't recover. And now you have a lifelong addict. All these kids, we're going to see it because we didn't have this during our generation because there was no ADHD. I remember. It was just, that was kids.
Yeah, it was just kids.
You watch now and you watch these kids become adults. They're going to be really screwed up. I mean, they're going to be a mess. And they're never going to be able to get off those medications because their brain wasn't able to develop properly. And now their dopamine and serotonin levels are going to be so shot, and they're not going to be able to produce it on their own. They have no choice. They're going to have to take these drugs for life. And I guarantee a lot of them end up committing suicide. I think that's going to be a side effect of it. I hate to say that, but that's a side effect of drug addiction, especially when you get into methamphetamine, cocaine, because it overstimulates the feel-good responses. Like I said, a overflow of dopamine. Well, once you can't produce that on your own anymore, you get used to those surges. What follows after that is chronic depression. You go straight down. You know, that was me getting on my box, but it pisses me off.
Well, it's true. It's true. And we'll talk about that one day. But, you know, all right, so we got about 15 minutes left. Let's really dive into chronic pain. So let's say somebody's listening to this podcast right now, and I'll use myself for an example. You know, I've had chronic pain with my back, but like just working out 2 weeks ago, I've been working out hard, getting great results. I'm very happy with the workout I'm doing. It's not too strenuous and everything, but then I wake up one morning and I pull the muscle in my back. So now I have pain that I can't work out. So I go to what I know, which is naproxen, and take a couple of those. And, you know, after a few days, that pain goes away. But now if I stop taking it, I'm afraid, all right, is this pain going to come back?
Yeah.
So you were talking about turmeric in more natural ways. So let's talk about what a person can do in my situation that doesn't want to go to the over-the-counter or to the doctor and say, look, I've got this going on, fix me. What would be your advice to them?
The first thing I would do is, if you're not taking any type of fish oil, and if you can tolerate fish oil, I'd take a fish oil, because it has anti-inflammatory effects as well. The turmeric is a great one. I swear by turmeric, and I know many other people who take it, who have chronic pain as well, take it every day. I get a lot of it in my food. I use a lot of turmerics in curry. And also, like, I just injured myself too, not working out, because I'm very, very careful working out. Like I said, people have when I tell them push-ups, sit-ups, dips, and pull-ups, I take really good care of myself when I'm in the gym. My workouts are pretty amazingly simple, just because I cannot afford to hurt myself. But I start out, if I pull something, actually I slept on my shoulder wrong, and I think I partially dislocated it. I have a memory foam bed now that I bought, and I have a strong feeling that I fell asleep and I sunk in and somehow just pulled it slightly out and slept on it that way. Because that's what it feels like. It felt like my shoulder went out. So I instantly went up the turmeric, and started, I went right to the heat, ice, heat, ice. I didn't even try and stretch it out, because that can make it worse if you've damaged some tissue. I'm just kind of letting it rest. And that's one of the best ways kind of to do it, I see, for the beginning. There's some other things you can take, eat a lot of broccoli, eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, because those are all antioxidants. And the way your body works is that inflammation response is actually a repair response. Your body has to have inflammation in order for it to repair. So it's called free radicals. And we always hear about free radicals, right? And you can't have them, they're horrible. No, you have to have free radicals are in your body all the time. And that's when basically a free radical is a molecule with an unpaired electron. I don't want to get too technical in it, but what antioxidants do is they help bind to that missing electron. And your body goes through this, like I said, inflammatory response, and then it cleans itself up, and all the antioxidants go in there, and then it kind of cleans itself out. So it's kind of natural. Our problem is today that we're in chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is caused by, not enough sleep, too much exercise, poor diet, not enough exercise. So we're in a chronic state, but actually the inflammation response in your body is natural. So when you injure something and it gets hot, red, well, that's your body actually acting to repair it. So without that inflammation response, you couldn't get the proper nutrients and biochemicals to that spot in order for it to repair. Our body's pretty complicated. There's a huge chemistry experiment going on all the time. But those are my basics that I use.
So if you take an naproxen, so for instance, let's say I take an naproxen for my back feels better, but then I bang my knee on something at work. Now I've already got this naproxen in my system, and you're talking about the inflammation and the redness and the things. Is that going to prevent that from even starting to heal at that point?
It could. The NSAIDs are non-steroidal anti-inflammatories drugs. That's what they're called. They call them NSAIDs a lot. It can, and that's what it can do, is it can actually inhibit you repairing the proper way, and it puts a lot of pressure on your liver too. Those drugs are incredibly hard on your liver. So what you may do is you may knock down the inflammatory response to an injury, but you actually can cause inflammation within your internal organs, especially your liver. So you have to be really careful with these things. And I haven't taken any of them I don't even remember last time I took it. It's been that long. It's been several years, because I find that naturally I have used different alternatives. There's a couple others that I know I'm missing right off the top of my head, but oh God, it's right there, right at the tip of my tongue, and I'm going to mispronounce it. Gosh, I'm going to look them up. There's a couple herbs that you can take that, oh gosh, was it ashwagandha, or I'm going to say it wrong.
I know what it is.
You know what I'm talking about. I'm brain farting right now. I have it on my shelf. I just can't remember it right now.
Yep.
See if I can get it to pop up with just the name. God, I feel like an idiot. I'm in the business. I know what I'm talking about.
No, that's the thing.
I can't. Well, it's late. I can't remember right now. ashwagandha.
Ashwagandha, yeah. Okay. I found it the exact same time you did.
Yeah, and you can take that also with St. John's wort. I've used St. John's wort for a different reason for me, is because the injury for me causes depression because of the chronic pain I've dealt with. Any additional injury kind of sends me in a tailspin. So I have to be real careful. So with all the stuff I deal with, if I get like another major injury, I go into instant depression because it's just too much. It's an overload for me to cope with. So the St. John's wort actually helps elevate your mood. So it can help in that sense. But eating a lot of dark greens, green leafy vegetables helps with it has a lot of antioxidants in it. Ashwagandha, it can be a little tough on your stomach. So you have to play with that a little bit. Also, what is it? Bromine is another one that you can take. I've had good luck with. But if you combine, I always start with the turmeric. If you start with the turmeric, start there because it doesn't have any real side effects. And I've met very few people that have digestive intolerances to it. And actually, I use it for clients who have constipation. It works really well for that. So use that in conjunction. One thing I have too, I got to find a new one, is I had a really good acupuncturist who also did Thai massage. And people think Thai massage and they think nasty thoughts because they think nasty things. It's not that way. Actually, Thai massage is excruciating. It's stretching and hitting a lot of trigger points. And I've found that when I pull something and I can't reach it, especially in my back, that he'll get on it and he can feel it. He finds it and he just digs into it. And it feels like someone is just hitting you with a jackhammer. But once all of a sudden it will spasm, it'll do this kind of really strong spasm and you can literally feel the muscle release. That's another good thing is go find yourself a good acupuncturist who knows Thai massage or pressure points. Ask them if they understand.
So you get your happy ending, but it's just a different happy ending.
It's a different one. You walk out of there and you're exhausted and you feel good, but in a different way. There's been times I've walked out of there and I'm like, holy cow, I'm shot. But God, I'm so glad I did that. Because those, the trigger points, what it is where a muscle actually will knot up really, really tight. And I don't know if you've ever heard this, but muscles have the capability of turning on and off. Mm-hmm. There's a way where they protect themselves. And that's kind of a misnomer with cramps. When people cramp a lot, they always say it's dehydration. Yes and no. If that was true, that it was solely dehydration or a lack of electrolytes, your whole body would seize. You see what I'm saying? It wouldn't just be a muscle here or there. Dehydration can be a part of it. But what happens is it's overuse. So you see athletes get calf cramps all the time. That's where they'll get them mostly. Well, that's because overusage, because they're running, sprinting, and they're using their calves the whole time. Well, when that muscle contracts that tight so much, what it's saying is you're pushing me to the breaking point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock up on you. I'm going to seize this muscle and I'm going to shut it down. It's part of exhaustion as well. So cramps can be part of exhaustion. And a good way, again, is if you go in there and you've had a lot of muscle cramps, because it can really be painful afterwards too. Your muscle will be really sore afterwards, is have them work that muscle out. What it does is it relaxes the muscle tissue and all the fibers. And once you do that, it gets more blood flow to it. Once you get more blood flow, you get more repair. So there's a lot of different ways to go about this, but I think for me, and what I tell people to do, those are kind of the basics. And if those don't work, then you escalate. I tell people, try and take care of it on your own. So I have a natural doctor, an ND, a naturopath doctor, and then I have an MD, a modern medicine doctor. So if I have to get a prescription, which I rarely do anymore, I'll get it as a last resort, because any pharmaceutical drug will have side effects. So you're going to have something negative happen from that positive of it. So you got to be really, really careful with pharmaceutical drugs. The pharmaceutical industry is getting a little smarter too. They're starting to make natural drugs that are natural components, but they're still prescription. Genius there, huh? Well, we've figured out that we're killing everyone and getting them hooked. Well, maybe we'll come up with some natural ones that are way cheaper to make because of the R&D. is nowhere near what you have to do with chemical derived drugs. I got to be careful with chemicals because everything's technically a chemical, but an organic
chemical.
Well,
a word for it. Not processed, but a
synthetic chemical. That's the best way to say it. Yeah, because even a natural drug is a chemical. We have chemicals in our body. It doesn't mean they're harmful. That's just what it is. So yeah, I would start there and just start with the basics. And you can self-massage. I self-massage. Get a roller. Deal heat, ice. Don't ice anything for over 5 minutes, because what happens, and make sure you have a layer between whatever you're putting ice on and what you're using, because what happens is I've seen people give themselves frostbite by putting ice on for too long, because it'll numb it eventually and you don't know. You lose all feeling because it's basically freezing all the nerves, and you lose feeling. You can actually give yourself frostbite. Not only that, but it does damage. If you freeze muscle tissue and you freeze those cells, well, now what happens is they start to crack. So when they unthaw, it's just like frostbite on the skin level. On the muscle level, it actually causes it to degenerate. So it breaks apart and you get muscle damage. So be real careful with that stuff. 5 minutes on, have a layer, take it off, get a heating pad, put the heating pad on. I do it for about 10 minutes, take it off, put the ice back on, 5 minutes, take it off, put heating pad on. Do it 2 to 3 times. And I'll tell you, the shoulder, just 2 days ago, I couldn't raise my shoulder over my arm. I mean, it was excruciating. It was throbbing. I was to the point where I almost didn't know what to do. It was getting that bad. And then I just said, okay, click in, go back, to what you usually do. And I started doing it. And within about 24 hours, it was getting better. And now I'm probably about 70% after 48 hours.
See, so that's interesting that you're talking about that, because that's, somebody in my condition, I think, all right, I've got to pull muscle. I need to stretch that muscle out. And what I did was I was doing a back yoga, a 10-minute back yoga, and it wasn't getting any better. And in fact, it was getting worse. So if I had went with the ice routine, I probably would have been a lot better off than stretching that muscle out and continuing to maybe not tear it, but strain it more than I was.
Well, what happens is that muscle, and stretching's good if you're not stretching an injury. And
preventative stretching is good.
Preventative, but I know I'm going to contradict a bunch of strength and conditioning people out there who think now I'm probably going to tell me I'm full of shit. But you're not. If you're trying to stretch an injured muscle, you're going to do more damage. There is a point where you have to give it rest. You have to let it settle. And I would say, give it 24, 48 hours, see where it's going to go. It's not going to kill you to leave that thing alone and not be tweaking it and stretching on it. Let it go. And that's what I'm talking about. The defense mechanism our muscles have, like I said, they'll ball up, tighten up, and constrict. So it's trying to lock things down. It's trying to stop you from injuring it further. And that's where someone who understands trigger points can get in and release that muscle. If someone who doesn't know what they're doing tries to do that, they can really, really hurt you and screw you up. A bad massage therapist, I've had a few over the years, have done more damage than good. So you got to make sure it's someone you trust and someone who knows what the heck they're doing. I do it to myself. If I can reach it, I now have enough knowledge. I know where to go. And I'll get shoulder pain here sometimes. And it'll be that these muscles feel like they're locking up, but it's actually a trigger point right here. So I hit
right here for people to listen on the podcast, where he's talking about the front of his shoulder and the trigger point being right in the back of his shoulder blade.
It's causing tension right here in my neck and down the frontal and the front delt. And I couldn't figure out, and I'd be rubbing on it and going, what's going on? What's going on? It won't go away. I don't feel anything. And one day I finally went further back and found the ball right there. And this is where I'll get them. And I just started rubbing it. All of a sudden I felt it go a little bit. And my neck kind of got looser and the front of my shoulder felt better. So remember, all of our muscles are interconnected. So just because you're feeling pain in one spot doesn't mean that it's not being affected from another spot, causing the pain is coming from somewhere else. It's not always the case, but sometimes that'll happen. And because like I said, all of our muscles are tied together in certain areas. So yeah, it gets tricky. And if you have tight, another problem that I've dealt with clients and I deal with myself is tight hip flexors. And if you have really tight hip flexors, and it's a muscle that's connected to your spine that rolls through your pelvis and connects into your upper thigh, that if it gets really tight, what it does is it starts to really compress your back. And it'll compress your back and you don't even feel it. You'll feel pain in your back, but what you have to stretch out is actually your quad. You have to make sure you stretch in your quad, which is actually, since it's tied, it actually stretches that whole muscle out, which will release the pressure on your back. I've been at this a long time. I'm no expert. I'm not a guy. I just know enough. And trust me, there's many ways to kind of go. And people go, well, how about chiropractors? Not a big fan. I don't want to. I've been through multiple injuries and gone to several who have actually made me much worse. Actually, the last one forced me into my back surgery. He screwed me up so bad at the end. I had no choice. I had to go in and get the surgery. That you got to be careful with chiropractors. There's a lot of quacks out there. There are some really, really good ones. And the good ones will know trigger points. They will know them. And they will also know the natural anti-inflammatories. So those are the ones you want to go to. So be careful, because you go in there and your back hurts and they're cracking you. That's like the worst thing you can. And think about that. This will make total sense. And me and some people, a lot of acupuncturists and other people in the medical, we've had long talks about this. Why would I need to be adjusted every single day? Why would I have to have someone cracking and manipulating my joints and bones every single day? It doesn't make any sense. If I'm out of whack, shouldn't you be able to put me in place in a short period of time and it should correct itself? It makes no sense to me, someone jumping on me every day, hammering and hammering and hammering on that spot. Eventually, I think it causes more damage than good. I don't see the point in it. Maybe we can get a chiropractor on here who can argue against me and tell me I'm totally full of shit. I bring that. Email us, contact me. You contact Dwayne. We'd love to have you on, because if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll fully admit it. But just from experience, I have found that going to a chiropractor for the rest of your life, getting cracked 3 times a week, doesn't seem like a good idea to me. I don't know, Dwayne, have you been to a chiropractor?
I have, and I don't know. I don't know what I got out of it, to be honest with you. I felt relief, but I don't, it's something that it looked like it was going to be a frequent thing, more than I wanted to pay for. So, I didn't do it long enough. I think Emily and I both went for a while. So, and with my lower back, man, I don't want to, I'm really scared about doing things like that, because like you said, I don't want somebody to put me into a traction. So,
well, yeah. And I mean, this guy really messed me up. I mean,
I think the guy I had was good,
yeah,
because I was getting relief, but you never know when it's going to go. I mean, that's scary when you have a back problem and they're cracking you down there. If they don't know what they're doing, man, they could put you in a world of hurt.
Well, they could cause a lot of spinal damage. You don't. The last thing you want, your spinal cord. You screw up your spinal cord, it doesn't repair itself. I mean, yeah, we're getting to stem cells, and maybe we'll get there someday. But yeah, I haven't been to just a couple over the years. I've probably been to, over my life, maybe 15 or more chiropractors. I've been to a lot.
I've been to one, and I think I was with a good one.
Yeah, so. And I've been with some good ones, and like I said, they were different. This last one, he seemed good, and then he started doing some weird stuff. And the last day, he literally, I couldn't get in my car. I mean, I'll give you here's a good story of someone who is supposedly well-trained and says they know what they're doing. And after he did it, I kind of looked and went, I can't believe that guy just did that. He got me on the floor, and he couldn't figure out, my back wouldn't move. It just was really, because I'd had the injury so long, my entire lower back had locked on the injury. So all my muscles, everything, I would get literally little small pools of blood in my lower back, because my vertebrae were actually bleeding. The soft tissue was starting to bleed, and it would pool in the bottom of my back. And we always thought it was bruising, but I found out after the surgery that's what it was. Well, this guy couldn't figure out. He's all, well, your back just won't move. I can't get it to manipulate. Lays me on the floor, gets his nurse or a nurse helper. She holds on to my feet, lifts my feet off the ground. He puts his foot in the middle of my back, grabs both my arms over my head, and they do this with me. Just make a U out of me. And I hear something go stink like that, just a pop. And I went, oh my God. I went, oh God. I almost shit myself. It was that bad. I thought I was going to lose my control of my bowels because he pinched a nerve. He got something really just right. Mm-hmm. And he looked at me and literally there was a tear starting to come out of my eye because I was like, holy shit, dude, what did you just do? And he sat there and he goes, well, let's do it again. I went, whoa, hey, time out. Time the fuck out. I don't know what you just did, but we're not doing that again. And he looked at me like I was some idiot. And I'm all, dude, you just stood on my back and tried to make a pretzel out of me. And that was your therapy? And he had my MRI. I had an MRI like 2 weeks prior. Well, I found out that he talked to a doctor that I'd gone to, and the doctor read him the riot act and said, what are you doing to this guy? What are you thinking? Did you see his MRI? And he goes, I don't know how to read an MRI. I don't know. And the guy's just, even the doctor, I could tell the guy was just like, holy shit, dude, you're going to get sued. You can't stand on a guy with a major back injury on his back and try and break him in half. That's not how you fix it. And literally a month later, I was in surgery. I mean, I went home and I was wrecked. So not to say everyone's that way, but be careful with the chiropractor. If you don't feel comfortable with what they're about to do to you, and that goes for a massage therapist, that goes for an acupuncturist, it doesn't matter. If you feel uncomfortable and you don't think it's right, say something. I mean, I saw what the guy was going to do. In my mind, I said, he knows what he's doing. He went to school for this, right? No. It was stupid. It sounds even stupider today than it did back then. I mean, who lets someone stand on their back, grab their arms, and have their nurse grab your legs and bend you backwards as far as they possibly can until your back pops? You know, it's like, oh my God. So be careful with that. And that's why I tell people, use your gut. If you don't feel comfortable with someone in the health profession, you're usually right. Just walk away, maybe get a second, third opinion and figure it out. But the best advice I can give is try and fix it on your own. Yeah. You know your body better than anyone. But also, preamble, A, I'm not a doctor. B, if you have a severe medical condition, you need to go and find professional help.
Maybe we should put that on at the beginning of the podcast.
Well, some people, Jesus criminy, they'll sit there and they got a bone sticking out of their leg. They go, but Gary and Dwayne said, put some ice on it first. You never know. But most people are not going to do that. I have to put that disclaimer in because I don't want anyone with a severe injury sucking it up. Either I've done it. I've sucked it up and I've broken bones and I've done stupid shit. And I go in 2 weeks later and now I've made a whole mess of everything. It's way worse than it would have been if I would have went in right away. So if you do something, obviously, if you have a severe injury, go see a doctor. Don't be a knucklehead. But don't treat it with 30 oxycodone either, unless it's absolutely necessary. Right. And surgery. We should talk about surgery sometime too.
Yeah, we're going to get into all this stuff, guys. If you're, when you listen to this, we're going to beat the trees and we're going to get the people in here that know what they're talking about all these subjects, because this is what's interesting to me. And that's what you should be interested in, as somebody getting older, and these things are going to start to happen. If you're a healthy 40-year-old, you're probably going to find something really soon that makes you an unhealthy 40-year-old. So, we're going to end this one here. I hope you guys got a lot of good information. That was good information for me. A lot of stuff that I didn't even know, and I've known Gary for 20 plus years. So, so you guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to the podcast. And I hope everybody has a great day, and, keep working it out, man.
Yeah. Be healthy.
All right. Sure. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.